Oh, also the screwdriver part. That part, that was hard. Oh, something's happening. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ivan Salinas. I'm Programs Coordinator here at Beyond Baroque. So thank you all for being here. Yeah, right on. Buenas noches. Want to welcome everybody to an evening of poetry with the contributors, creators of Tlacuilix, Tongues in Quarantine. We're going to hear some amazing poetry, lightning. We'll get started in just a few minutes, but first, just a brief acknowledgement from Beyond Baroque. Acknowledge our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism and genocidal practices. As an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous communities, their stories, and cultures. We're a nonprofit dedicated to the possibilities of language, offering readings, writing workshops, and gallery exhibitions year-round. Tomorrow we'll be hosting fiction writers Victoria Namcombe, Charles Harper Webb, and Rodrigo Rivera Derb, and also reading with Karen Kevorkian and Molly Bendel. And on October 27th, we're welcoming Sunflower Station and Not a Cult Press. It'll be actually a pretty fun reading. There's also going to be a DJ set and a Thai food vendor. And in November, be on the lookout for the 4th installment of the Southern California Poetry Festival, set to take place November 18th through the 20th. We got a very exciting lineup for that as well. You'll be finding more info on our website by looking at our calendar events, and you can sign up to any of our free weekly workshops. Currently, Monday night fiction is being facilitated by Raquel Baker, and Wednesday night poetry workshop with Jose Hernandez Diaz. And yeah, this time of year, we're celebrating while also mourning, grieving some of our history. For those that self-identify as Latinx, Indigenous, people of color. So it really means a lot to be able to open the space, to provide that space here at Beyond Baroque, which is an institution with over 50 years of history. And it really is an honor tonight to welcome some voices, especially from Poetry Project 1521. All right, so I hope y'all are stoked. Just very briefly, Tlacuilix, Tongues in Quarantine is the first book by Poetry Project 1521, which is Linda Ravenswood. Round of applause. Darren de Leon is also with us. Sara Harris. Yago Cura. El maestro Adolfo Guzman Lopez. Tlacuilix y Tlacuilos. A group, all of them in the house. Aslan is in the house. A group of Southern California writers, scholars, and artists. The book centers people who have endured family separations, colonialism, and institutional violence through cultural affirmation and various forms of resistance. Project 1521, writers created new text in response to original artworks by Sandy Rodriguez and drew inspiration from the Florentine Codex. How its content echoes the pain and resistance in today's social justice movements. In 1576, the indigenous scribes and artists finishing the Florentine Codex sequestered to survive a raging plague. Project 51 sequestered through the 2020-2021 COVID-19 global pandemic. The writing in this book contains the artist's lived experiences. So first up, I just want to welcome Adolfo Guzman Lopez.
Sara Harris.
Oh, Sara Harris.
This is just a connection. Adolfo.
Adrian witnesses, Adolfo witnesses, Armine witnesses, Darren witnesses, Diana witnesses, Gloria witnesses, Leticia witnesses, Linda witnesses, Julia witnesses, Sarah witnesses, Yago witnesses. These are the words of Julia Bogani and her family. May she rest in peace. We, the indigenous people, the traditional caretakers of this landscape, are the direct descendants of the first people who formed our lands, our worlds, during creation time. We have always been here. Our ancestors prepared and became the landscapes and worlds for the coming of humans with order, knowledge, and gifts embedded in the landscape. Our ancestors imbued the responsibility and obligation to our original instructions, guided by protocol and etiquette to be part of, take care of, and ensure the welfare of the extended family and community, defined in its most inclusive expression, the nature, and to pass those teachings and responsibilities onto our children, grandchildren, and many generations to come, and all those that now live here. Awiskahe. And this all started, well, one of the beginnings was in 2018. And that's when I was shaken by a painting of a cactus. It was made on paper made of bark and fiber. The color was like nothing I had ever seen before, but it was as familiar as the smell of the wet earth when it rains. The color was made of natural dye that made me really jettison all of those greens from my Mexican childhood. Painter Sandy Rodriguez had been creating her own natural paint dyes using indigenous methods. She had also begun a deep dive into the Florentine Codex, that 1570s document painted and written by indigenous artists or tlaquilos. When I say deep, I mean really deep. She bought a multi-volume facsimile of the Codex. She painted on amate paper, which had been outlawed in colonial New Spain. Those 1570s artists and writers embedded into the codices the messages and ideas that depicted a world that was being transformed, destroyed. A world transformed, destroyed. Sandy's codices depicted our current time of crisis, environmental destruction, family separations, and unaddressed violence that is part of our environment, as much as the canyons, the mesas, the coyotes, and the coastlines. That cactus prompted me to question that patriotism and nationalism that burst within me. So we gathered these writers and we called it Project 1521. Veteran writing teachers, performers, pre-Columbian scholar, all from different cultural backgrounds. There's no one label to describe the people that gathered in Sandy's Mar Vista studio. We workshopped, chit-chatted, ate, broke bread, gossiped, laughed, we cried. Project 1521 writers recognize that we're on the cusp of a different world. It's not a foregone conclusion what the world will look like, feel like. Our ancestors' migration experiences had layovers in Lebanon, Argentina, Chile, Chihuahua, Chicago, Miami, San Francisco, National City, Guadalajara, Mexico City, and many points in between. Some of our ancestors' names are lost to us. We really want to get them back. We really want to get those names back. Like the names of those who died through the violence of colonialism after 1521. Recovering and keeping their names should be an ongoing process. I had a vision, a daydream. I saw indigenous texts of Tenochtitlan rise in embers above the Aztec capital, consumed as they rose higher and then they fell. They landed gently onto the bloody waters of the canals. I imagined a young woman about the age of Moses' sister Miriam lean over, pick up the pieces and gather them in a reed basket, a coffin of words. We write our books in times of crisis. We write our books in times of crisis. These are the words of Luis Rodriguez in the Tlacuilix books, in the Tlacuilix book. Poetry in the American Holocaust, generating beauty and truth to confront the ugly and the lies. In your hands is a poetry emanating from a deeply disturbing original sin. The conquest and domination of Mexico, Central America, and what we call Latin America. Converse, unveil, and redeem such ruin? Can it guide us to reimagine ourselves on our long and blood-ridden journey to comprehensive human liberation and dignity? I believe in poetry. Poets and writers from the United States, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Chile, and other countries have long proven the power of imagery, language, and story to do exactly that. Today, we need poetry more than ever. Adrian witnesses, Eyewitness, Armine witnesses, Darren witnesses, Diana witnesses, Gloria witnesses, Leticia witnesses, Linda witnesses, Julia witnesses, Sarah witnesses, Yago witnesses. Hey, let me introduce the next poet up. It's Linda Ravenswood de Montano. She's a poet and performance artist from Los Angeles, a co-founding member of Poetry Bureau, the Melrose Poetry Bureau, and a founder and editor-in-chief of the Los Angeles Press. Linda's recent publications include XLA Poets, Get It, and Rock Waves, Slow Drags. Welcome, Linda.
Hey, gracias. Thank you so much, Alofísimo. So here's the book, Rock Waves, Slow Drags. The only iteration of this book you'll ever see is this proof, because the editors in England changed the title to Cantadora, letters from Los Angeles. So I wanted it to be called Rock Waves, Slow Drags, like Adolfo said, but it's called Cantadora now, and its publication date is November 25th. I'll be annoying Ivan senselessly. Please, Ivan, let me read it here. It's going to be so annoying. And Jimmy, of course, and Quentin. I'm so desperately happy to be here with Sara y Adolfo y Yago y Darren, my compas from Project 1521. There are several of us who are not here. Julia Bogani of blessed memory left us during the pandemic, the heat of the pandemic. And who else is not here? Adriana's not here. Armine is not here. Diana's not here. Who else? Sandy's not here. Yeah. But, and oh, of course, and Gloria is not here tonight, but they're with us in spirit. And so I'm going to read a poem from this new book that I wrote during the pandemic, which was almost going to be in our book Tlacuilix, but it's in this book instead. It's called 1519, Water Dream. Chontales people on the cliffs of Yucatan see Cortés ships approaching north of Tlapaco. They imagine the ship's structures as floating houses hovering towards the land. Perhaps the land itself imagines, maybe even animals wonder, what are these things on the water? It's 1519, I'm a bird, I with my eye. See with my eye, say with my eye, ah! The desert. Look, a chunk of water is flowing, is following. It's stalking me. It comes to rest on the sand of the desert, a house that has come on the water, a piece missing of its own tongue, frontera. It drags along the bottom, jettisons the ocean as it slides. Look now, a piece is boiling on the water, a house on water. I'm a bird. I know this desert. I'm a falcon returning home. I'm a bird turning. It can't be all bad. Every bird must turn in the desert to give birth to brothers and apple trees. What new language will I speak? Oof, almost plastic in the throat. What is plastic? Some kind of water bird has some kind of evolution. Oh, I must tell all my friends. Now I'm home. So who holds the paper here? Some Mexicanos? Ask that bunch of Indios over there. You know, I see a hotel. Yeah. Maybe it's Montano Ranch? Oh no, it's Sofitel. Así. Ándale, lo mismo. Maybe if we can all see it together, imagine it. A different city. It's 1519. I'm a bird. Mil gracias. So I just read the other poem I wrote during pandemic for Project 1521. I just read it at Small World Books. So I won't read it again, but instead I'll read one last poem. It's for my father, Oscar Montaño de Beltrán, of blessed memory. And my only son, Saxon, who's here tonight, was born right before his birthday in May. So the bull lives. Saxon. So this is called Poem, My Father Like a Boat. And then I'll introduce Yago. My father like a boat. Ghost slip in and out from shore to distant star. Where will you turn, Papa? Did the sea meet you well? Did you angle with your chin over your shoulder? Did you look back to me? Was I your other star? Did you fish with me the times you fished La Salina, Conchale, tu hermano? Could you see me on the face of the moon or the palm of your hand, or sketch me out of ley lines, or see impressions of me on pine trees, how they intersect with telephone lines and faces of women, porch swings, all the supports to keep the house floating on land. Papa, did you see me underneath the house when you called your dog? Come out. Ven aquí. Come into the light, sweet girl. Gracias. So thank you so much. I really appreciate being with Project 21, being here at my heart home, Beyond Baroque. Thanks to, I believe his name is George Drury Smith, who started this place over 50 years ago. It is my great honor to introduce my good friend. It's Yago Cura. He's a librarian at the Hyde Park Library. Go bother him. Don't bother me, bother Yago. But bother me too. You can reach out to him for any questions you have about Argentina, Lebanon, football, all things poetic, all things James Foley, all things good and shining. Please welcome a husband, a father, a friend, a poet, a librarian with a spine, the great Yago Cura.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda. That's very generous. That's a little too generous. I'm a little suspicious. As as Linda was saying, the great thing about there's certain spaces in LA that are really magical. I hate to say it and be so trite, but it's true. This is one of them. Avenue 50, I have found to be a place of great magic and great like power, you know, and to see people come through there, it's been a great honor. I just moved like last year, but for 10 years, obviously I'm an East Coast douchebag. I moved here about 10 years ago. And I know you hate me. It's okay. I hate myself most of the time. It's okay. But I was living in Mar Vista for 10 years and I was raised, you know, I have 2 boys and, you know, we were taking the good and the bad and it's been, it was a really good time. One of the highlights, you know, aside from raising and being married to a beautiful woman and raising 2 kids is Sandy's workshop. And Sandy's workshop was in Mar Vista, the same neighborhood that I lived in. I literally would walk there to do these workshops. And I don't think people really understand, like Sandy was locally sourcing pigments. She was getting worms from the cactus flower, cochinillo, and basically making red dye that way. So like really interesting kind of mind-blowing stuff was happening just down the road.
He still does it.
And exactly, that's, yeah. So I just wanted to start. There's these 2 jacaranda trees on Inglewood Boulevard, not too far from here. And they inspired this poem. This is Jacaranda Takeover. What it is 2 jacaranda trees planted along the same longitudinal on the south side of Inglewood Boulevard. They post up 50 feet into the air, dusky, purple billows that tumble into momentary tunnel over sidewalk sides. It's their takeover factor, dueling cumulus branches that toggles my awe into something more feral than zeal. Under the trees themselves, carpeted mauve wilt that stains paint jobs and tinges a makeshift tunnel drawn by the 2 sumo jacaranda straddling boulevard. The palms know to grow away from these jacaranda gemelas. In fact, you won't find a plant not perturbed by the brightness of their tasteless display. Vegetation can be so shameless. In the middle of the jacaranda tunnel is a mail truck. It is parked at the mouth of the tunnel on the other side of all this eyesore. And yet there's no mail person in sight. So there's so many parallels between this book and the life that we led, you know, not 2 years ago, and we're still kind of living, right? Linda mentioned that I'm a librarian for the city. So up until this week, you had to wear a mask to come into any of our facilities. So it's been real, and it's been very very beautiful, right? Like very tense and very, like, I feel like every moment that we're living nowadays is lived really to the fullest. And I think about the decimation of Tenochtitlan. I think about these artists being paid, being, you know, to kind of talk about their own destruction, right? And talk about their way of life before it dies. And shit, man, that really gets me. But you know, the other thing about this group and the people in it is really how kind of diverse. And I hate to use that word, you know, but it's really true. You know, I think the cynics among us can say, well, that they're just talking about Mexican history, right? But I think it's much bigger than that. I talk a lot about how as Latinos, we love to forget that Africans were in control of us for 700 years. And that's not me being political. That's me having read a couple of history books, right? So this poem is Tlacuilos, and they were the scribes. They were the people. They were the ones that were getting it down like we were, you know, living the moment to the fullest and really trying to make some sense of all this, right? Tlacuilos. In Aztec glyphs, the symbol for a painter, 2 diagonal scrolls in a rectangular frame. In a Mar Vista garage taller, a modest lecture hall on grinding cochinil to make Ian old red. In Nahuatl and Chilango slang, in Lunfardo from Buenos Aires and Spanglish from Los Angeles, in Lebanese Arabic and Maya, in Quechua and Zapotec, in a Long Beach synagogue, or Pacoima taco shop, in poetry brothels constructed from bones of faith corporations, in groves of spoiled fruit, in training painters to be a class of sonic illustrators in the Calmecac, in holding 2 or 3 part-times in the hopes of adding up 1 vocation, in attaining gifted witness status as compilers of their own demise from that treacherous campaign, Make Spain Great Again, in bloody field notes, in bullhorns and sirens of ruin, in appendages of institutes and technocratic amate grammar, in future bark and shadow progenitors, in pre-Columbian body cams and closed circuit storyboards, in classrooms, voluntold by friars to tap the story out. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You know, it's interesting, this whole thing, Latino X, Latinx, Latino, what's, you know, I grew up and we were all Hispanics, right? And then, you know, but I'm for it, right? Because we are not a monolith, right? And I think that's really the most important thing to kind of take from it. So for me, for example, there are many people, you know, in our pantheon, but number one, my spiritual advisor growing up as a kid and the most flamboyant man alive was Walter Mercado. So I think regardless of what type of Latino you are, there's been a point at one time where you have been watching Primer Impacto or whatever, waiting for Waltercito to do his edict and come out and do his thing. And so this is a poema para Waltercito. Chico, it's 2016 and I'm presenting to a room full of white librarians in the South Bay about Latino senior computer classes in Spanish. And I exploit your Misterio quotient in one of my slides, an interstellar headshot of you with astro freckles and the pillars of the galaxy in the background. You know that one like this, right? And it elicits such a response that I rewatched those episodes of Primer Impacto on YouTube thinking, Waltercito, you never broke character in our story of your life. Now that you are firmly ensconced into the ether architecture of our Latinidad, you show us how to embrace love and become star architects ourselves. Your most terrestrial critics charge your timeless aura with sterile banter about the gender of this one or that one, when they're not even on the escenario. Waltercito, bailemos un bolero on the edge of the Milky Way. Your hands and writhing wrists click in the centrifuge of our galaxy, and let your dance transcend fractal refrain. Waltercito, moms and I are watching you on Primer Impacto. Fam, it's 1994, which means it's my first year at my Miami Community College, and we're waiting for your Scorpio edict. Waltercito, 15 words written specifically, prophetically about our stinging species that prove your prestige as our rabbi. Moms and I are both Scorpio, so naturally we're suspicious of everyone's motives, but relax enough to let our stingers down and heed unsolicited gangster advice. Your segment on Primer Impacto starts and the producers drop you into space. You're sitting on a calculus white rattan armchair and you're wearing a pumpkin majordomo kimono uniform and addressing the other less important signs first. Waltercito, Tia Mercedes draped a Puerto Rican flag on your ataúd and plopped a jíbaro hat at your head. There was so much music at your funeral. Willie Acosta was photographed mumbling lyrics into the cracks of your casket and hugging the curves with his eyes closed. So there was no mistaking your loyalties to who you were at your core. Waltercito, the things that defined you also defied you. Waltercito, on what plane, en cuál dimensión do you find yourself? It's 2020, and of course, your Pisces ass finds a way to pass to the portals during a pandemic. Now, Waltercito, when your message of love compounded by love, now when we could really use your laser-guided abuelita guidance systems and genderless excesses on orientation, now when we are calling out your name, we find ourselves at the whims of stupid Jupiter? No, loquito. It's 1987, and my parents have sent my sister and I to Buenos Aires for the summer. It's way past our American bedtime, but my Argentine cousins are promising us that after Las Gatas de Porcel, a Puerto Rican wizard with a strong Cape game is going to spill secrets of los adultos from Yucatan to Tierra del Fuego. Thank you, guys. And then I don't want to take too much time, but there's so many great poems in this collection. And like I said, so many really different voices. It's really an honor to have been able to make this book with the people here. And I count them not just, colleagues, but friends, frenemies, Linda, looking at you. So I wanted to read one of the people that's been really, I think, as a matriarca of the LA poetry scene is Gloria Nedina Alvarez. And it was such an honor to get her poems in here and to be in these workshops with her because she is an OG. And what that means is she's been doing it longer than most people. And it's really great to see her work. And I really think that she's a matriarca in that she will welcome you to the fold of the poetry scene here in LA. No questions asked, but very, very generous, very, very amazing writer. This is New Moon by Gloria Enedina Alvarez. That's why we need to reach into the earth with our words coursing through our hands so that they can return once more, new, but old, with the strength, the knowledge, the wisdom that is witness, purpose within action, within love, colors, the vibrations, the music of time. Face up, cara, corazón, y manos. That's what the antiguos would say. Face, heart, and hands. Thank you, folks. Oh, I'm sorry. And so the other great thing is meeting so many great people. Let me tell you a little about Sara Harris. Are you next? You're next, right? Okay. Sara Harris is a sound artist, master gardener, and journalist with more than 20 years of experience in Los Angeles, Mexico, and the Netherlands. She has produced award-winning work for Youth Radio Marketplace and hosted produced here in the city from Pacifica Foundation. Sound installations include Oficios de la Calle at Museo de las Culturas Populares in Ciudad de Mexico and Regeneración, 3 generations of revolutionary ideology at the Vincent Price Art Museum in LA. Current projects include experimental documentary, The Fragmentations Only Mean, with Jesse Lerner. Guys, please help me welcome Sara Harris.
Right. Hi. So I have to say that the experience of working on this project, inspired by Sandy Rodriguez's amazing landscapes on paper, has been a transformative experience in my life with all of my fellow Tlacuilixes. And I would just like to jump right in and appreciate that we're reading work that exists in this tiny little tome, which means a lot. It packs a huge punch, but we're also sharing work that we've written over those 2 years, those 2 long and short years of just having community and solidarity and poetry. I mean, we did it. We had Zoom workshop sessions, and that was like so much fun. Wait, I'm gonna go grab my notebook. Hold on, can you wait a second? I'll be right back. Yes. Okay. This is like the fun stuff. This is the good stuff. This is like the love that comes out of having lived through this. 1521. This is my little notebook, and Linda and Yago would give us prompts, and being in Sandy's studio and looking at her work before it was on the walls in any gallery or art museum. What a privilege. Yes. So I'm going to read a piece I wrote during our workshopping, and then I'll read a piece from the tome. This one comes out of absolute total, and it's called Unconditional Love. I wrote it almost 1 year to the date ago from today. Unconditional love. What if not the land, receiving the hand of a child stumbling in her plight? What if not the land, rained on for years by tears, washing over invisible stains of futures in flight? What if not the land, holding us under a sun so furious, so as to singe the plans we held in our hands? What if not the land commands our unconditional love? What if a mourning dove lands in a tree where it ought not to be, and the land would stand up, raising her hands toward the sky, asking, why has it taken you so long? So long to arrive. What if the land is dying to survive? What if the land still will thrive? So I think about these pieces that that is really my love poem to the desert and the desertification, from Oakhurst, California, up in the north at the gates of Yosemite in Mariposa County, all the way down to the Salton Sea. And I really do mean that. We are living in a time of ultimate transition, and it will come to fruition through the volition of the words that we offer in sincerity. And we have interstitials that we wrote in this project. We were thinking about what is it that drives us to do the work we're doing and connects us to Sandy Rodriguez's amazing landscapes. And so I wanted to read this one before I read the next poem. To hold in my mind the portraits of the children lost in the same space as las diosas que protegían a sus jornadas al retorno. This has kept my sense of honor, privilege, and responsibility in common and in check. As a mother during these times of la pandemia y las injusticias fronterizas, it is not lost upon me that I have a lovely daughter who has the moon and the stars above her, and that the children who have attempted to knock on the door of this dear country have been turned away. So I will read for you a piece that is in this tome. It's called Declare Peace Every Day. And it is for the memory of Congressman John Lewis. May he rest in power. A vow of silence amidst the violence, because hate is too heavy a burden. The water-wise garden awaits us all. A vow of silence because the violence hovers in the air. Hate is too heavy a burden to bear. If a woman has lost a relative, she is forbidden to engage in rage, in business as usual, until 30 days after the death. No breath if one of us cannot breathe. Reprieve is not an option because the fix is in. We are here to begin because hate is too heavy a burden. So I have to thank the experience of collectivity and community during the pandemic, and being Tlacuilix, being in quarantine and still having poetry to share in community. And so I'm going to close with this one for my daughter, who's somewhere here in this audience, who is my guiding light and my strength and my deepest love in this world. And it's called She Made Time Stand Still. She made time stand still. She tried to make time stand still against her will until the clock ran out. She made time stand so still until the pin dropped. She made time stand still until it slipped through her hands. She made time to stand still just long enough for the rough stuff to move faster past her until she stopped just in time. Thank you. And now, Darren de Leon and his magnificent panoply of poetry.
That's me. Oh, this is a nice book. It really is. It's collectively edited by 4 of us that I think we had set aside time on Wednesdays to do, the Zoom meetings. And they weren't just meetings, they were actually work sessions, which was something that it wound up being probably most valuable, was because instead of just talking about what we should be doing, we were actually doing it. And because of those efforts, this book came out. Also want to send a really big thank you to everyone who was involved, all the donors in our GoFundMe campaign. It's because of those, I mean, that's really who got this printed up. We just did the work, but it was through that support. And so this is from HINCHAS Press, which is like, for folks that don't know, blowing up. It's blowing up. That's Yago. That's Mr. Miyagi right there. He's taking care of it. He's a karate man, not the kid. So I'm going to read some stuff because not everyone can be represented today. This book is laid out in a certain order where we first address the children who were lost, making their way up north and detention camps and neglect and so forth. And so one of the teachers that had a workshop was Diana Magaloni, and she, being a anthropological scholar, that kind of helped us in reading. What we find out is that, of course, the Tlacuilix, they didn't have like language, they didn't have letters. So what they did is they wrote pictures, and the pictures meant stuff. But we find out that the colors that they use also mean something too. So you could follow the narrative of the visual, but if you understand the history and the color making process and how these colors are derived from a certain plant at a certain time inside a certain region, that gives you even a deeper understanding that touches our soul. It's not just touching like we're like reading a letter. We're in a cosmic alignment. We're being put into these different, and if you understand how those work, which many indigenous people did, then you get a much, much deeper reading from these. So to help us through that process of understanding what those codices says, that was one of the things that Diana had offered us. So I'm going to read one of her pieces called Dear Little One, Canto de Peces. Los Angeles, March 22nd, 2019. Dear little one, you took it upon yourself to carry the burden of your destiny. You screamed your lungs out with courage as you were burnt by an unfathomable blaze. As night dawned, midnight turned into midday, you were turned into fish to swim across the cold, murky waters of Lake Texcoco, filled with blood and human flesh. This is the task you took upon your shoulders, to be fish and carry the sun, to be fish and worship a new God, to be fish and plow the earth with flowers, to be fish and spread the ancestral seeds of our future. Like fish, you are prey of the greedy. Like fish, you are ignored and consumed, but you continued swimming together like fish. To clear the water, to turn it into a crystalline living substance that sustains us. And like water, you are 80% of our blood. Like water, your death meant our creation. One of our Tlacuilix, who got so busy reaching personal goals for his family. I'm gonna read work from Adrian Arecibia. My Spanish, I'm gonna like hack the Spanish at the beginning. So just hang with me.
You're a real Chicano.
That's right. This is the Pocho. The Pocho translation of Spanish. Llegando está el carnaval quebradeño y cholita. Irque, charango y bombo, carnavalito para bailar. You guys, hey, you understood it. Good, thanks. The pieces left from the corners of my mouth, singing the songs left behind from another place, another era, always earth and hands and space, deeper, deeper than punya, deeper, deeper than inhales, deeper than afternoons in a plaza, deeper than children with zampoñas, deeper than Laquitas, deeper than Kenya, breaths, deeper Pachamama, listening to breaths, the backbeat, hitting the head, a child left to come back 11 years later. After the fall of Tenochtitlan, Cusco would fall, a shoulder of a condor, and we come home to breathe to moments still reverberating, always something tugging heart, home to a territorio, to an in-between spaces, home to a memory, to a girl that dances, bouncing cholulos at the edge of the mountains, learning the fight before men understood, weren't gods, but men. Call me Aymara, call me Chango, call me Mapuche. Me preguntaron cómo vivía, me preguntaron sobreviviendo, dije sobreviviendo. Survival never just the song, but the reto, the virgins, the curas, the sacerdotes, words made right, words made right, words made right on scrolls. We find ways of taking out from quecos, cholulos, pejesapos, guanacos, from Tamarugal to Animona, in breath. The white leather bracelet, cuff bracelet appeared oddly strange against my sienna skin, as if my body was visiting privilege, until all of my air exited through your copper knee, which was firmly planted on my neck. Tiles, scans, and strong feet. Then it started with an image of freedom and boats carrying the oppressed. Now, the leaves that heal our lungs are capsuled and sweetened. Then, the awakening of tired eyes as hearts are drawn towards the shore. Now, we walk through desert gardens renamed as intrusive weeds. Then, trekking, working, searching for a sip of the new elixir called young country. Now, the shimmering of the Quetzal's tail warns us of jeeps and infrared jails. Then, broken mirrors are faded. Pictures, scarves, with the silent scent of the past. Now, descriptions of a plague in burnt books written for us to stray away from extinction. Then, warm showers with bracero asylum, their exits coated with Dust Bowl relief and DDT. Now, in yerbas, we trust. In white tiled rooms, we rust. Tiled scans and strong feet. All right, cool. I want to thank everyone, all the readers of today, and also I want to thank the dudes in the sound booth. Thanks a lot. Beyond Baroque, and all the different grants and stuff that cover this type of performance. Great, loving that stuff. I want to thank you all for that. Thank the GoFundMe donors once again, and hope you can get this book, Tlacuilix, Tongues in Quarantine, through HINCHAS Press. Yeah. And thank you if you're tuned in. If you're watching this on the rerun, hey, you got to check out more of the stuff that we're doing. What about the podcast? Oh, the podcast. Also check out Project 1521. Because Project 21 was something else that dealt with Martians. And we don't want to associate with that. Project 1521, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can listen to the history of how this book gets put together and some exclusive material. And if you have the book itself, we have a nice little QR code.
Oh, so advanced.
There we go. All right, thank you.
Round of applause to all our poets. One more time. Thank you all so much. We got some refreshments outside, copies of Tlacuilix at the bookstore. So yeah, thank you all for coming. All right.